Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Today I would like to address some doubts that people raise in relation to Hijra and answer them. And these are some of the doubts that I could remember and the answers also that I could remember. Of course, we benefit that from our scholars, ulama of Islam, and they base their fatwa, their verdicts on the Quran and Sunnah according to the understanding of the Salaf, pious predecessors. The first one, when we say that we should do Hijra to Muslim countries and live with the Muslims, and of course this applies to those who do not already come from Muslim countries. Those who originate from Muslim countries, they do not do Hijra, they just go back to their own country. Because for them it's not permissible to live permanently with non-Muslims. And the other videos that I made, they deal with this issue. The first doubt or argument against Hijrah that we have when we talk to our Muslim brothers is they say that we are doing da'wah in non-Muslim countries. The answer is as follows, that not everyone can do da'wah. Anyone who wants to do da'wah, he must have knowledge, he must have taqwa, fear of Allah, meaning applying that knowledge, and he must also be safe in relation to his deen and himself and the deen of his family. Also, da'wah should be done according to the Quran and Sunnah and the correct understanding of the Quran and Sunnah, not like people want, interpreting ayat of the Quran and hadith the way they want. So when the scholars see that someone is able to help non-Muslims know more about Islam and know correctly, they will say that this person can and is allowed to stay in non-Muslim countries where there is no danger and threat to his safety and his religion. And that is why sometimes scholars even will say that that person should stay and help the Muslims and the non-Muslims with their religious knowledge. Also, Allah knows better than us how to do da'wah and where to do da'wah and when. And He said that the vast majority of Muslims must live with Muslims. Also, the scholars emphasize the danger of staying in non-Muslim countries due to the danger for our aqidah, our belief, our creed from non-Islamic ideologies, the danger to our akhlaq, to our manners, and akhlaq in Arabic means also things, relationships between men and women. So for example, we have this danger of, in many non-Muslim countries now, education of homosexuality and propagation of it everywhere has become widespread, and in schools, universities, everywhere. So it's not possible for someone to say that he is doing da'wah, for example, while himself and his family are exposed to this ideology and this, you can say, practice and education that is harmful to a Muslim. Also, most brothers who say that they're doing da'wah, in fact they don't do da'wah. Most of them, they stay, if they're honest, for some dunya purpose. The second argument or doubt that people have is our Muslim countries are corrupt and there are many problems in them. The answer to that is choose a Muslim country that is less corrupt. Also, some problems are bound to exist everywhere. So you have to look which countries are less problematic or less corrupt. And non-Muslim countries have worse problems. Like what? Like, for example, kufr, shirk, disbelief, idolatry, false beliefs, like I said, homosexuality, gay marriage. All of these things exist, and in many countries, you can say, prostitution is open and it exists, and there are even places where it is practiced. All of these problems exist in non-Muslim countries. Also, you can move to the Muslim country and help correct the problems and correct any corruption or make it less that you find in them. And also scholars are staying in Muslim countries, not in non-Muslim countries, despite the fact that Muslim countries have certain problems. And also in relation to doing da'wah, I forgot to mention that Muslims are more in need of da'wah than non-Muslims. The third point that we get is better education and jobs are found in non-Muslim countries. The answer to that is a Muslim must choose according to his religion, not prestige or not to the paycheck or to the salary that he is given. He always chooses if he is a true Muslim. Of course, Muslim means someone submitted to the will of Allah and chooses according to his deen. Also, ladies in Islam are not required to go into higher education or work, because we have now a trend which has corrupted actually Muslim ladies, that they have less children. They don't want to get married very often, except very, very late, when no one wants to marry them, to be honest, or some desperate guy wants to marry them. And of course, biologically, they're not able to have any children when they get married at 30 or 40. They should get married much, much earlier. So they delay. They say, I want to get this degree, I want to get educated, I want to get a job, I want to get a house, I want to get a car. And by the time she has all of that, very rarely do they get married, to be honest. And even if they do, they have 1, 2 children. And in Islam, we are encouraged to have as many children as possible. And of course, work is the same. She's not supposed to work except in very, very rare cases. And the same applies to education. In very rare cases, they are exceptional cases. Also, scholars do not allow for us to get education or jobs in non-Muslim countries except in exceptional and rare cases. For example, a government may send a group of students or a group of specialists in a certain field to a country that is non-Muslim, that have that kind of speciality which is not found in any Muslim country. The next doubt we have is that non-Muslim passports carry more weight, or non-Muslim countries' citizenship carries more weight. The answer to that is to seek a citizenship of a country that is not a Muslim is only allowed in exceptional cases. For example, for refugees with nowhere to go, or with stateless individuals, or the like. Scholars are very strict on a Muslim seeking a non-Muslim citizenship. Why? Because they say that he goes under their control and submits to their laws, which contradict Islam. And the sin for the sins of the future offspring that stay in that non-Muslim country will be squarely on the person who initiated all of that, maybe yourself. And most Muslims are not in need of these passports, and they only want it for dunya, for worldly gain. Also, another argument or doubt that people have, and that's number 5, is they don't give us a passport or citizenship in Muslim countries. The answer to that is that it's not true everywhere. There are countries that give citizenship and passports, but the conditions are different in a country-to-country basis. Even though I must say that they have an obligation in Islam to help every muhajir, every person doing hijrah, but if they can't or don't fulfill their duty, we must fulfill ours. So we can't look at others and say that we must do haram because someone else is doing haram. That's not correct. The next one is, the argument is, they say there is a hadith that there is no hijrah after the conquest of Mecca. This means, the answer to that is, this means that from Mecca there is no more hijrah after the conquest of Mecca, because it became a Muslim city. Also, that's the opinion of the vast majority of the scholars, including our modern day ones. So the likes of Sheikh Ibn Baz, Al-Albani, Ibn Uthaymeen, Muqbil Al-Wadi'i, Al-Fawzan, Abdul Aziz Al-Sheikh, Abdul Muhsin Al-Abbad, Salih Al-Luhaydan, Abdul Karim Al-Khudair, all of them and others whom I didn't mention, and there are many, they do not say that this hadith means there is no more hijrah in our time. They all say that this means there is no more hijrah from Mecca. And that's the opinion of many, the vast majority of past scholars as well, including Imam Nawawi rahmahullah, who mentioned this in Riyadus Salihin, in the Gardens of the Righteous and other books. Also, those that disagree go against general ayat and ahadith, like the ayah in Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 97, that says, indeed those whom the angels take upon death while doing wrong to themselves. Doing wrong to themselves means they do not do hijrah when they are not able to practice their deen freely and openly, and they are able to do hijrah. They are doing wrong to themselves. The angels will say, in what condition were you? They will say, we were oppressed in the land. They, the angels, will say, was not the earth of Allah spacious enough for you to emigrate therein? For those, their refuge is hell, and evil it as a destination. So that's an ayah that doesn't say at this particular time hijrah stops, or this particular city or land hijrah stops. Also, we have even clearer hadith that says hijrah doesn't stop until tawbah, repentance, stops, and tawbah doesn't stop until the sun rises from the west. So there is no proof to support what they say except that general hadith, and which of course refers to Mecca. And hijrah was done and is being done throughout the history of Islam. Why should it stop now? Where is the dalil? Where is the proof? And it's not correct at all, this opinion. So no one should look at it as a valid opinion. Finally, I would like to say to myself and you, dear brothers and sisters, nothing in the dunya, in this world, is worth sacrificing your deen for. On the contrary, deen meaning your religion. On the contrary, you must sacrifice from your worldly possessions and status to get close to Allah and protect your deen and the deen of your family. So, these are some of the arguments and doubts that I remember. And of course, we must remember, in light of what is going on and in light of how generally, not all, but generally non-Muslim governments treat Muslim minorities very harshly, very unfairly, because every time a Muslim who's been maybe brainwashed and affected by some wrong ideology goes and wrongly kills someone, they make a huge issue out of it, and generally they kill that person. I don't almost remember any time that they let him live, the police and the other intelligence services. But whenever a non-Muslim kills Muslims, or let's say other non-whites, as is happening more and more often these days, that individual or individuals survive and they get the chance to make speeches in the court, which unfortunately Muslims don't get the chance to do. I'm not saying that the Muslims who perpetrate those acts are correct, of course not. Every normal person knows that, but people choose to lie and to twist words. We never said it, and no normal Muslim says it. But why shouldn't a Muslim be treated the same as a non-Muslim if they are truly equal in front of the law? And of course, for example, in the New Zealand shooting today, I learned that today is the 17th of March 2019. It's been a couple of days that the person who they apprehended, he made white power signs in court, and he had his chance to live and to answer and to make speeches, and he was not killed on sight like Muslim suspects do get killed. And also they charged him for the murder of one individual, even though 49 people died in 2 mosques. So I don't know, those 48 what, died of shock or what? Very amazing. So all this shows, my dear brothers and sisters, that non-Muslim governments don't treat us fairly. And this is something that we must acknowledge, we must have the courage to say and face, and however difficult it may be for us to move, or to move back to our Muslim country if we come from it, it is worth it for our future generations, for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, who will be very grateful to you if they are good Muslims. If they are not good Muslims, that's a different issue. They will be even worse in non-Muslim countries. But if they are good Muslims, they will be better in Muslim countries, they will benefit the Muslim countries, and the Muslim countries need us. Even our presence will be better, and may Allah enable us to learn His religion and apply it properly and understand it, and help us be good Muslims. Sallallahu wa sallama wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.